Hello everybody, this is Zanerex, here to talk about Hitman, a game where you, the player, can disguise yourself as a yoga instructor, poison someone's drink, and then calmly walk away like nothing ever happened in the first place. While the game is well known for its open-ended level design and creative execution methods, there is something that tends to get overlooked, that being the NPCs. Now, although the NPCs help build immersion and give the world of Hitman a sense of life, they will also make you want to slam your head into a wall if you don't know how they function. And yes, while they may not be the smartest characters ever created, they are smart enough to ruin your entire silent assassin run because you walked slightly too fast near them. So if you've ever played Hitman and found yourself wondering why everyone suddenly decided to turn on you the second you picked up a screwdriver, I am here to explain how these NPCs work, and more importantly, how to manipulate and exploit them for personal gain. First and foremost, I would like to discuss how IOI programs the NPCs that can be seen roaming around each map in Hitman. This includes what type of NPCs exist, what their general behavior is, and why sometimes their skill set is of a trained silent assassin, or while other times they act like absolute buffoons. Before I continue though, I should probably mention I am not a developer, nor do I claim to be one. Most of the information I am going to talk about comes from a combination of my own observations, and it is probably what is considered a concerning amount of time spent watching NPCs walk around doing absolutely nothing of importance. So to begin, NPCs in Hitman fall under 4 general categories: civilians, guards, enforcers, and ghost NPCs. Ghost NPCs are a special case in Hitman. These are the background characters that don't actually pose any threat to the player. They will not compromise you for pulling out a firearm, though they will react to certain things like gunshots or watching someone get murdered. They'll duck, they'll run, and they'll scream, though none of that actually matters because they can't do anything about it. And about 30 seconds later, they'll return to normal, acting like nothing ever happened in the first place. Civilians, on the other hand, are slightly more annoying. They're incapable of harming the player, but they can still blow your cover if they see you doing something they don't like, such as holding a firearm or walking around in a disguise you clearly stole from a dead man. Civilians may try to confront you, or they'll just scream and run to the nearest guard, because apparently telling on people is the only skill they have. Now, moving on to guards. Guards are one of the most common obstacles the player will run into while playing Hitman. Unlike civilians, guards are not only able to compromise the player, but also have the ability to kill the player. Guards can frisk you, escort you out of trespassing areas, confiscate illegal items and briefcases, and if you're lucky, they'll open fire immediately after you accidentally bump into them while trying to walk past them like a normal human being. And lastly, we have enforcers. Enforcers are NPCs that are able to see through the player's disguise, even if the player hasn't done anything wrong. Enforcers are marked with a small white dot above their head and can appear as both guards and civilians. So if you've ever been walking around disguised as a chef and one single guard somehow recognizes you as a fraud, it's probably because he's an enforcer with nothing better to do. Since we have gotten a basic understanding of Hitman's NPCs down, I feel we are ready to go on to the exciting part. The part in which I explain how I and many other Hitman speedrunners break the NPCs. The first method we use is called the suspicion lure. When doing something illegal near an NPC, and you, the player, are visible, a bar will appear indicating to you that you will be compromised if you are to stay within the NPC's vision. And depending on how long you are to stay in an NPC's cone of vision, different things are to happen. After the bar has begun to fill about halfway, or is below the point of being completely filled, the NPC will promptly head to where you were last seen. Though, if the bar is below this halfway point, the NPC will appear with a question mark above their head, and then will say one of its pre-programmed dialogues. And in case you're wondering, when the bar is completely filled, you will be compromised and lose your silent assassin status. And among other things, different consequences may happen once caught, such as being escorted out of an area while trespassing, or in some cases, well, actually, most cases, being shot to death. Abuse of the suspicion bar after being filled halfway or below full is what we call the suspicion lure. Now I will move on to the second method used by Hitman speedrunners. This method is known as the panic shot. The panic shot is one of many methods we Hitman speedrunners use to manipulate NPC behavior, and it also happens to be one of the easiest to perform in-game. In order to perform a panic shot, you must use a weak rifle or handgun and shoot an NPC in a non-lethal area of their body. This is often the leg or the hand, though other areas may still work depending on how forgiving the game decides to be. Or if you'd prefer something slightly less violent but equally effective, you can shoot near an NPC instead of directly at them. This is known as the distraction shot. The distraction shot is also fairly simple to perform, and follows a general rule of escalation depending on how many shots are fired. The first shot will usually distract the NPC, the second shot will alert the NPC, and the third and final shot will cause the NPC to enter a panic state. So essentially, the third shot in a distraction shot functions the same as a panic shot. And just a quick heads up before continuing, a panicked NPC is essentially blind to everything the player does. This includes things such as trespassing, performing illegal actions, holding a firearm, or doing anything else that would normally result in you being compromised. But because the NPC is in a panic state, they will not react to any of these things, because apparently, once you've been grazed by a bullet, all logical thoughts leave your body. Now, the reason these methods work in the first place is because whenever a shot is fired or lands near an NPC, the game draws an invisible bubble around the point of impact. If the player is to exit this bubble before being spotted by the NPC, they cannot be compromised. This means that even though the NPC may be screaming and running in fear, they will completely forget about the player existing as long as the player leaves the area quickly enough. Third and final method I will be discussing is a bit more niche in the Hitman speedrunning community. This method is called gun flashing, and as the name suggests, gun flashing is when the player quickly reveals a firearm, usually a handgun, in front of a guard NPC, then immediately hides it again. This causes the guard to enter a panic state for a short period of time, allowing the player to quickly commit illegal actions such as injecting a target with a lethal syringe or planting explosives without being noticed. As for why this works, I don't have a real answer, but based on what I've seen, it's safe to assume that guards in Hitman have the situational awareness of a goldfish. There is one last method I would like to go over before wrapping up, and that is a trick that, to my knowledge, doesn't have an official name in the Hitman community. But regardless of what it's called, it's still widely used, and more importantly, it looks cool. The method works by holding any large illegal weapon, this includes rifles, shotguns, or sniper rifles, and repeatedly dropping and picking it up while being watched by an NPC. What this does is reset the suspicion meter as long as the bar has not passed the halfway point, or in theory, that's what it's doing from what I've observed. And like I said, it's just a theory, a game theory. Sorry about that. So, by simply mashing the drop and pickup buttons while walking past an NPC, the player can avoid being compromised entirely, even though they're carrying something that should absolutely get them arrested. Now, the reason this works, as far as I can tell, is because the game treats the action of picking up or dropping an item as a sort of kind of a behavioral reset. So every time you pick up or drop an item before the suspicion bar fills up halfway, the game restarts the bar from zero. In other words, the NPC begins to suspect you, then forgets, then begins again, then forgets again, until eventually you've passed them and they apparently decide it wasn't worth the trouble. And while this method does have practical use cases in some Hitman speedruns, I'm going to be honest, most players probably do it because it looks cool. There's just something satisfying about walking past an armed guard with a sniper rifle in hand, dropping and picking it up like some sort of party trick, and you're just somehow getting away with it. So for now, that's all I have for today, and that I believe wraps up this video. If there's anything else you hope for me to cover in a future video, feel free to comment down below. Also, This video isn't to take a jab at the developers of Hitman in any way. This video is just to highlight the many ways speedrunners have broken IOI's near-perfect AI, seen in the World of Assassination trilogy. And one more thing before I leave, this video has taken me a ton of time to make, so please subscribe if you enjoyed this video.